Well, let's see, how many have we got? We're up to 21. I think we're going to have a pretty full house tonight, so let's give it just another minute or two and let everyone log on. Okay, the counter says 23, and that seems awfully low for all of the RSVPs that we received. We're expecting, oh, I'd say well over 100 people. So bear with us. I don't want to make people feel confused if we start too soon. Hi, Jeremy Lee. Do we have all of our advisors here so far? Okay, tell you what.
Two of them. We have Mr. Horn and Mr. Lee.
We have them so far. Well, let's, I hate to hold this up any longer because so many people were good enough to appear early here. So that said, let's see how the screen share goes before we start in. Okay, why don't we get started? Hi, everybody. I'm sorry you're going to be hearing dings as we go through this as people log in and out. I'm not sure how to stop that. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ann Cochran. I am currently playing a dual role, as I have been for quite a while with VIP. I'm the school's founding executive director, and I'm also the head of college advisement. As most of you know, I think, at least those of you who've been around for a while, I am nearing retirement. I'm ancient. And my husband, Chuck, who used to be our music teacher at VIP, he and I moved in late September to Southern Illinois to a 30-acre farm. So I'm speaking with you tonight from my office in that house, and I will be retiring from that position on June 30th. But at this point, it appears that I'm going to be staying on for a while to still work with all of you individually and collectively for college advisement, certainly for the rest of this year and through next year. That's the plan, unless something changes. That's what we've talked about and what we're going to happen. I'm thrilled to say that I have good people working with me in this end. Ms. Wilbert, wave Ms. Wilbert, has just recently come back from maternity leave. We're so thrilled to have her back. And she's working very closely with me in college advisement. So she's on site at school at all times. She also wears an assistant principal hat along with Mr. Suter, but she knows everything. I was going to tell you in my introduction here, quite quickly, my college background includes undergraduate and graduate degrees from Illinois and Wisconsin state universities. I wish I could have Ms. Wilbert's credits, which are degrees from Vassar and Columbia. I like to trot that out and let everybody know that. We're proud of her. She's very demure about all of that, but she's a smarty pants for sure. We also have Mr. Michael Horn, which we couldn't have a school without. As you know, Mr. Horn wears the principal hat first and foremost, but he also teaches a couple of AP classes, AP Research, sometimes teaches AP World History. He wears just about every hat in the school when he has to. And he also runs a junior advisory. He's one of 4 advisory teachers. We also see Jeremy Lee there. And Mr. Lee is a social studies teacher, also has a section of advisory. I'm thinking we might have Miss Tippings here tonight, but I don't see her yet because my screen is limited. But Miss Tippings, if you're there, wave. And Mr. Tran, Mr. David Tran, both Miss Tippings and Mr. Tran are new with us this year. Great new teachers. Miss Tippings runs our speech and debate program and is a fabulous English teacher. Mr. Tran, we are so lucky to have as a wonderful math teacher. All 4 advisory teachers, I'm pretty sure, are here with us tonight. That's Mr. Horn, Mr. Tran, Mr. Lee, and Ms. Tippings. And then Ms. Wilbert also tends to sort of run around and coordinate their activities, especially where college is concerned. There's a lot to go through tonight. It's dense information. I hope you'll stick with me. I'm kind of a lone wolf here because Mr. Horn has another school-related important meeting to go to later. And Ms. Wilbert has an important new baby to get to tend to, who calls all the shots right now. So it's going to be me, myself, and I, and I'll do my best to make it interesting. But know that there are 55 slides here, and I hope you can find it within you to hang with us here, because I do think it's important information, and it's a good, it's a well-intentioned introduction to what's about to happen to all of us together as we go forward very soon now. So we have a college planning process at VIP that is, I think, still to this day, one of our best calling cards for sure. It's what's in our charter. It's what we're, it's our mission. It's what we're chartered to do by LAUSD. We are an independent charter school, but we are chartered by the district. That's legal and necessary. And we are chartered to help kids get to proper college choice, 4-year college choice. Not that we don't have kids who go to community college, but our mission vision is built around primarily 4-year colleges. And I think our process is very different from anything that you'd certainly find in any other public school, especially in our immediate area in the Valley and probably over the hill as well. If you were to go to one of those schools, you would probably be lucky to even be getting a college talk at this point in time in your junior year. Wait till senior year to start that process. And they would talk a little bit about UCs, but mostly push you towards Cal State Northridge and a few others, mostly community college. It would be a pretty fast and breezy talk and over and out. What we do is going to look to you to be very complicated, and in some ways it is. But at the end of the day, I can brag about the fact, I believe, that we have hands down the best four-year college going rates, best percentages of any public school in the Valley. I think we are still keeping up with most of the private schools. I like to say we'll never catch Harvard Westlake. We don't have those resources. But you can compare our college acceptances to any of the next tier, like the Oakwoods and Campbell Halls and Buckley's and those. We do the same schools, but the difference is we serve such a diverse audience. There are 79 juniors in this class, and those are 79 individuals. Most of them, I mean, there's really no two that are exactly alike. I'm proud to say our school is diverse in the best sense of the most honest sense of the word. We have kids in every class from all income levels, lots of different ethnicities, all different ability levels, all sorts of different goals for college. So this talk is necessary because we have to start somewhere to all be on the same page. Otherwise, we aren't delivering our promise, which is to zero in on what each student actually wants and needs. And we take that journey with you and we lead you through that journey. So here's some of the main things we'll cover this evening. Background, why we're here. I've pretty much done that. College choice, college application mechanics. I want to say there that there will be another one of these group talks early in the fall semester of senior year where we really drill down on that particular topic, but we'll touch on it. We'll do some basics on it tonight. Extracurriculars and testing, Naviance and Common App, basics about recommendation letters. So our core philosophy of college planning has been the same. We're in our 9th year of existence in some way, shape, or form. We believe that there are a world of right choices for every single student. And every single student, if he, she, they really want it, they can go to four-year college, to an array of four-year colleges with, when necessary, which is what's usual, appropriate financial aid in place. We help with that trip as well to a great extent. So right college fit is what we're all about. It's why we're allowed to exist as a charter school in LAUSD. Best as I can tell, we are small. We're probably the smallest in the Valley. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing because we can offer that individualized counseling and camaraderie along the way. I think what I've been proud of where our kids are concerned every year is we build a culture of camaraderie, of companionship through this process. I know a lot of schools, I hear the stories about how competitive it is, and they don't want to tell each other where they've applied, and it's nasty, nasty social culture. So far, that's not been our experience. It's been very friendly and supportive, and I think we intend to try our best to keep it that way. Because the truth is, in our particular school, every single student is on their own journey, their own individual journey. And that's what makes us different from everyone else. So there are three good reasons. I mean, there are lots of good reasons, but three that we'll highlight, because you may be asking yourself, why go through this? Why earn a 4-year degree? I know it's become popular to knock college out in the press, out in the world. College enrollment is starting to fall for a lot of reasons. Some of them are good reasons, but let's just talk about the ones that we've isolated. First of all, reason number one, the most common ones that parents still believe, and it's also the most outmoded one, is to get a good job. That's pretty much common sense. Yes, it's about putting oneself on a career path. And there are trade schools that do that as well. But the truth is, it's a bit outmoded because college has changed over the years. And in the 21st century, research has shown that it takes teens, graduates, a lot longer to reach adulthood than it did when some of us were kids. I'm a lot older than I think most, if not all of you out there, but if you lump me into your generation, parents, we mostly were considered to become adults at 21. Most of us were left home on our own or were kicked out of the house. We were told you're out of school. Maybe you went to college, maybe you didn't, but now it's time to get out, find a career, stay on that path, get married, whatever it was. And that's when we became adults. Our parents became adults at 17 or 18. Our kids now, and I hate to tell you this, but average age for most kids to be out on their own, totally independent of help from parents, living away, running their own lives, is about 28. Now, I know that may be shocking, but what that means is 4-year colleges have become more of a place to keep growing and changing rather than training for a job path. It can be that, there are some majors that are still that way, but for the most part, it's an elongation of the maturation process. Reason number two, and this is one that we wholeheartedly believe in, it's all about nurturing the life of the mind. That's a liberal arts orientation as opposed to a career orientation, but it really is where 20th century higher education has been leaning for the last, well, since the turn of the century, even earlier. This is a phrase that you often see. As far as I know, it's still on the upstairs bulletin board at school, and it was delivered by former provost of Bryn Mawr College and Barnard College. And this is kind of what we try to teach our kids to adopt and essentially learn and live by. I won't read you that whole quote. You can read, but St. John's College is a wonderful, one of the best liberal arts colleges. And the quote basically says, your work and career aren't the center of your existence. There's so many more aspects of one's life that should be, all of those aspects should definitely be well supported by your education journey, especially your higher education part of things. So the most important thing that we see happening here every year is where you end up going to college is not of central importance. It's really more about the process that your student, that's if I'm speaking to you students, the process of learning about yourself, of exploration, trying out ideas. And you'll find that as you start this process, you're going to be a much more confident, secure, I think, happier person as you're leaving high school if you embrace this process. Don't freak out. There's nothing that worth it. I think we try to engender a happy culture while we go through this. It's really your choice. You can choose to make it unpleasant for yourself. But I think for the most part, we have a pretty good time, and you do a lot of positive changing in the process. So parents, this is mostly targeted at you. Sorry about that. As you know, I don't think this is news to you. So many older teens are nowadays finding themselves in various sorts of trouble. We believe that college is one way to establish a focus and a general lifeline, because once again, truthfully, most kids aren't ready to make those decisions at 17 and 18. It's a different time and place. And there's a lot of, as you know, a lot of issues now: depression, anxiety, kids ending up on wrong paths. It's a way to help direct one's life, and pretty much as simple as that. To support that further, these are the scariest of times. I think you'll agree with that. Just hanging out doesn't deliver much that's good with all of the social media and the things that are getting in kids' ways. We find in general that the kids who are just staying home, getting little jobs on the side, just hanging out and sort of waiting to grow up, things don't really turn out that well. I mean, I'm sure you can cite examples where that's not true. Nothing I'm going to say here tonight is absolute. You know that. But this idea that one should just leave high school and sort of see what happens and hang out, it doesn't go well. So enough said about that. Uh-oh. Can't get this thing to go forward. Well, oh, there it went. Okay. So when we talk about college choice, what exactly do we mean? Well, let's start, because I think this is where most public schools pretty much start and end, is let's talk about the present system we have in the California university system. It was devised in the late 50s and was implemented pretty much in the early 60s. It was called the California Master Plan for Higher Education. And it was a very, very big deal. It sent a shockwave through the country. And other states started following California, as they often do in so many areas. But at the time, because California, you know, the economy was different. California was booming and growing and new, and it put together this three-tier system that we still have today, which consists of the UCs, which stands for the University of California system. We're going to talk about each of these in a little greater depth in a minute. And then there are also the California State University campuses. And then there was our model community college system that everyone emulated. And this was all forward thinking back in the day. It's still with us. And, you know, this is where I often get into trouble with a lot of parents. I may get an email from one or two of you or three of you tomorrow, because it sounds as though I'm knocking these systems, and I don't mean to sound that way. I think what I'm trying to do is to persuade you to think about additional ideas than just that UC CSU community college model. The system was originally designed for the top 10% of kids, the top 10% of the achievers to be admitted to a UC campus, the next 30% down to a CSU, and everyone else could go fish in the community college system. And back then, it worked really, really well for most kids. So let's start with the UC system, University of California. Well thought of all over the world for sure. UCLA, I have in parentheses there the number of applications UCLA received last year and the number they admitted. As you can see, they admitted 8.6% of their applicants. That's really, really low. That's almost on par with the highest level private schools, Ivy League schools and the like. That statistic at the end shows the average GPA, recalculated GPA of students that are admitted. As you can see, it's very high. As you go down and look at the list, you can see it doesn't start to look like it admits normal people till you start getting down around Santa Cruz, Riverside, UC Merced. And those are the newer schools in the system. And I predict by the time 5 years from now, they're going to be every bit as difficult to get into as the others. But that's the problem. It's become increasingly more difficult for students to get into these schools because why? Because there are so many people here now. We have such a huge population and money's a problem. Programs are often cut. It's difficult to serve such a wide range and just sheer numbers of kids. I'll say this may be overly cynical. Don't mean to offend you, those of you who are UC grads, but honestly, there are versions of UC in every state of the union. These are big state universities that serve a wide range of people, but truly they're not the be all and end all of higher education. If you end up in one of these, good for you. If that's what you want, we support you. I want to be clear about that because I've been accused of being a UC hater, and that's not true. I just simply, I'm excited about people learning what the other options are that are open to them. Last year, weirdly enough, 12% of our senior class was accepted to Berkeley. I'm often asked, why did that happen? I don't know. I don't know why it happened. I think it's weird. I don't think it's going to happen again. It was just one of those things. We got lucky. Just so you know, about half of those kids that were admitted actually went. The other half, by the time they'd gone through our program, had learned about other options that pleased them more than that idea. The other state university system that we have, the California State University, better known as the CSUs, there are 28 of these campuses. They're local. They're intended to serve local populations, although they do take students from everywhere. But they're a mixed bag. They've become increasingly interesting to me over the years, and they're deceptively complicated. There's a lot that goes on in how Cal State admits. Unlike most higher ed institutions, the Cal State system does not admit holistically. And what I mean by that is, if you apply to any other private or public university, usually it involves, writing of essays, reportage of extracurricular activities, maybe recommendation letters. There's a whole host of things along with the transcript that are looked at and considered. Basically, the Cal State schools admit and deny via an algorithm. So there are a lot of reasons why I tend to go a bit negative on them in general. I think it's great we have them. They're right for a lot of kids. Don't get me wrong. One of the issues that I have with them is that their graduation rates collectively, they tend to be, the four-year grad rates tend to be pretty low for a host of reasons that are kind of beyond the scope of this talk. But again, they're good options for a lot of kids. I usually try to talk most kids into including at least a few Cal States on their applications. They tend to be on their application plan. They tend to be very cost effective. They have a lot of good qualities, but there are things also that you should look out for. A lot of them tend to be primarily commuter campuses. That's maybe not so good for experiencing the full college experience. So also notice that not all of them, if you look over at the list on the right, not all of them begin with California State University dash whatever the town is. Some of them are different, like California State Polytechnic University, Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Poly Humboldt, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, the most popular one. Some of them still have the old-fashioned state names, San Francisco State, San Diego State. So be aware of that, because I notice as we go along the way, a lot of people experience, a lot of kids and parents experience a lot of confusion there. They'll say to me, oh, you mean Sonoma State is a Cal State? Yes, it is. It just doesn't have that CSU in the front. So why are we not super big on pushing you towards community college? Again, community colleges, thank God we have them. I'm not here to knock them or to necessarily talk you out of them. But the reason why we really try to put four-year college at the forefront from you is that it's a more direct way to achieving college success. For me, the whole story in a nutshell is over there in that last column on the right. The number of the transfer rates in our local community colleges tend to be pretty poor. And the reason for that, of course, once again, is that they're very crowded and the counseling services are difficult to take advantage of sometimes. And so the typical kid there takes, who's successful at transferring, typically takes 3 to 5 years to do it. I know each of you know people who've done it in 2 years. I do too. I'm not saying it's true of everyone, but it seems to be a certain kind of kid, a certain personality type that is able to go in and figure out the system and get it done in a hurry. Also, I think there's a lot of, we all think there's a lot of value in kids having a full college away from home experience if they're ready for it. That said, if a community college plan ends up being right for you, that is something that is handled by our school counselors. That's Ms. Escobar and Ms. Riley. I don't tend to get involved in community college, and Ms. Wilbert doesn't, because really because we have our hands full with four-year college. Ms. Riley and Ms. Escobar have lots of experience with it. So if that ends up being your direction, you become their customers for college. I guess it's as simple as that. So let's talk a bit about the world of private colleges and universities and what's worth pursuing. The main thing I hear from most people is, well, we can't afford a private university. NYU costs, for example, what is it nowadays? $85,000, maybe up to $89,000 a year sticker price. Well, you're going to find that that's true. The sticker prices on just about every public college or university is moving up into that range. But what a lot of people don't know about it is that private colleges work on a different financial aid model than public universities do. If you're, say, middle class, upper middle class person, and you already know perhaps from past experience that you're not going to qualify for financial aid from a UC or a Cal State, well, it ain't necessarily so in the private colleges and universities, and they're all different. Some of them are more generous than others. Some of them have deeper pockets, bigger endowments. So it's a whole world of exploration. So don't be too quick to discount these schools. We tend to send at VIP more kids to private institutions than public. That's a truth. We also tend to send more kids out of state than those who stay in state because they learn what the options are. But we serve everyone regardless of what they choose to do. But I think we're the only public school in the Valley that can make that claim. And it just has to do with student and parent involvement in education. So for example, what do I mean? On the left side are some non-denominational kids. What I mean by that is non-religious based schools. A lot of people don't know that NYU is a private school, not a public. It sounds like a private, but that's not the case. Boston U, Emory, Brandeis, there are hundreds of them that are in this category. USC is not public, it's private. And then there are denominational ones like University of San Francisco is a Jesuit Catholic school. University of San Diego, that is not, by the way, San Diego State in the CSU system, or UC San Diego. It's a private Catholic school in San Diego. DePaul, Catholic in Chicago. Loyola, New Orleans. Seattle, Catholic. Obviously, Cal Lutheran is Lutheran. Villanova in Pennsylvania is Catholic. These go on and on and on. And I might say, I know, judging from our general population in our school, most parents aren't going to want to send their kids to schools that have a religious affiliation. But I will say the Jesuit Catholics in particular, tend to be very open to other cultures, other ideas. They're generally not trying to convert you. And they often tend to be very generous with financial aid. So I have, most of them have, for example, Hillel foundations for Jewish kids. I mean, they're accepting of everyone. There are a few resources, pictures of books I'm going to show you as we go through tonight. This particular one, the Fisk Guide to College, is updated each year. It's sort of the Bible, I think, of these sorts of schools. You'll also find public universities in it, selected ones. If a school isn't in this guide, it doesn't mean it isn't a good school. It's just that the book can't be 2 feet thick. So the reason why I like this one and highly recommend it to you is that unlike most other college guides, it's extremely readable. It's even entertaining at times. It gives you a real flavor of each campus and a snapshot of the stats, but a lot of copy about what student life is like on each one of those campuses. So if you want to delve into learning more about private universities and the better private colleges, I highly recommend you order a copy. It's on Amazon. It's about $25. Some of you are headed for art colleges. Many parents don't know that an art college degree, it's usually a BFA, that stands for Bachelor of Fine Arts. That degree is every bit as valid as any other undergraduate degree. My own child, my youngest one, who's now almost 35, not a kid anymore, went to art college, majored in painting, and taught for a while, and then opened a business working creative areas of Hollywood, and she's making a ton of money. So it's not about going to art college and starving. A lot of the arts fields are burgeoning. They're rife with opportunity right now as technology grows and changes. It's a very, very good direction, not something to shy away from, like it may have been 40 years ago. There are about 100 of them, give or take, in the United States alone, but there are some of the more popular ones over there on the right, just to give you an example of some of them. My own kid graduated from Maryland Institute College of Art, MICA. And yeah, they're fun. If I could go back to college, I'd go to one of those. I wish I'd known about them. I wish someone had told me. Maybe they didn't exist back in the covered wagon era when I went to school, but they're great places. There are also lots of performing arts conservatories of all sorts. Most of you have heard of Juilliard, probably the most selective college on the planet. I don't know what their rate is right now, but it's tough. I think they maybe surpassed Harvard. And then there are specialty colleges of all sorts that deliver four-year degrees. The Cooper Union, very progressive school in downtown New York City. They only offer majors in studio art, engineering, and architecture, and it's highly, highly competitive. It's another Harvard level school. Emerson College is very popular with a lot of VIP kids. Usually at least one goes every year. And it's a communications-oriented school in Boston. Lots of screenwriting and theater and anything, journalism, anything having to do with spoken communication, not an art college. Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. We have a student from last year who's there now, becoming a rocket scientist. Fashion Institute of Technology delivers lots of kids into very lucrative positions in the fashion world. And then there are really interesting science and technology institutes. You know, it's become very difficult for kids who are still growing and changing, who think they might want to become engineers, to get into those standard programs in the UCs and so forth. They're hugely competitive and so difficult once you get there. But some of these schools are very welcoming by comparison and deliver a much more forward-thinking education. Obviously, MIT and Caltech are very difficult to enter. But the rest of these on the list, we've got kids at every one of these schools, and they come out with exactly what they want, with science-oriented careers in place. The HBCUs stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. There are 107 of them, public and private, all over the United States, but they tend to be located in the Eastern Seaboard and Southern states. And there are some examples of those, if those happen to interest you. On occasion, we do send graduates to those schools, and the ones that we've sent have been very, very happy with making that a choice in that group of schools. And then I kind of like to say this is where I've been living since I was bitten by the college bug, and what I wish I had experienced as an undergraduate. And that's the whole sea of liberal arts colleges that exist in this country. They're varied, they're very different in terms of what they offer and in terms of selectivity, but they tend to offer subjects not unlike the ones you take in high school, but much more in depth and with plenty of interesting additions. The hallmark of a small liberal arts college is small classes, lots of individualized attention. You, the undergraduate, get all of the attention. The problem with any private or public, especially a public university, is in general, you are not, as an undergraduate, you are not the primary customer. You're essentially there to support the research of the graduate students. That was certainly my experience in college. But at these schools, you are the whole show. You're the reason why they exist. It's a much more careful education. You have opportunities to become close to professors so that when it's time to apply to graduate school, law school, med school, you have plenty of people in your corner to help you and to help you take those entrance exams. These schools tend to deliver kids percentage-wise, tend to be more successful in delivering kids, their graduates, to various selective graduate programs that I just cited. Another great resource, if you like what you're hearing about small liberal arts colleges and you want to learn more, this book, Colleges That Change Lives, it's kind of a classic. I think, Mr. Horner, you can just nod at me. Are we still using it in advisory these days? Yep. A lot of kids have already been exposed to it. It's kind of moldy. It came out, a long time ago, 30, 40 years, maybe 40 years ago, but it's been updated through the years. And if you read it, you will understand why these schools are really worth your time and attention. Also, they know they're competing with large universities, and the idea of small may not initially seem too sexy to a teenager. So they know that they have to offer decent financial aid in order to win you. So they're something that we explore when you come in and talk with us individually. Okay, I titled this one The Agonizing Collection of Highly Selective Colleges and Universities, and they're agonizing for a lot of reasons. And one of them is because they're so freaking hard to get into. And they make people chew their nails. And also, they're agonizing because a lot of times these choices are made purely for trophy collecting reasons and not for the right reasons. And I often find that kids and parents want to redesign their applicant, the child, to fit in to one of these schools. And that generally doesn't work real well. You've heard this before. I'm going to say it again. Kids are successful coming out of every single college and university. It's all what you put into it. You can be just as big of a loser coming out of an Ivy League school as you can out of the lowest public university in the country. It just depends on what you do with your time there. But anyway, that said, I realize I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because boy, do we love it when you get into these schools. Obviously, it's good for us as a high school. It's a good marketing tool. It's a good calling card when we can say education is a snob game. And we're happy when you get in. But on the other hand, know that, and I think this is the truth, there is no pressure from our end to play this game, because what you should know is the more selective the college, the more hoops you are going to jump through next fall when you're in this process. It's not a trophy. You're going to earn it. It's not easy. And kids often think they want to do this, and then when they get into it, they see what it is. Many times they drop away from it, and that's a-okay. It all just depends on who you are and what you want. And we just try to help you get there, whatever that is. So let's read this quote. This came from one of the few private college counseling firms that I actually respect. They said, Olympic medalists, concert pianists, teenage mathematicians who complain of the rudimentary banality that is calculus. Ivy League applicant pools are chock full of these students, but there's one trait those students who are ultimately admitted all have in common, something that, when coupled with their perfect GPAs, top test scores, and multiple Nobel Prizes, make them that much more appealing to Ivy League admissions officers. And this is the truth. Most of those winning kids never said the words, "I want to go to an Ivy League school." In other words, they're looking for a certain level of, a high level of focus and ambition and just plain old sophistication that most kids at this age don't have. It's an odd duck usually that fits the bill there. So if you're going to do this, make sure you're going for the right reasons. Couple more great resources that delve in really to the whole competitive process of applying to colleges, these colleges. This one's the best one that's come out yet. It came out a couple of years ago. Ron Lieber, New York Times financial writer, finally zeroed his talents in on college at all aspects of it. It's not just about the finances of college. He lays out what really, really happens in these admissions offices. The sooner you understand, especially students, that college, higher ed is big business. It's not philanthropic. It's not a popularity contest. It's not a matter of a college liking you or not liking you. They are filling slots based on institutional need. That's a tough concept to understand. But they make business decisions. They don't make emotional decisions. It's not whether they like you or don't like you. You're lucky if you get a 4-minute read on your file. They reduce everything you've written down to a stats sheet usually. It's hard to not be cynical about it because it's not what you think. I watch kids cry their eyes out when they're rejected from schools because they think someone didn't like them. No, they're rejecting little pieces of paper, not you. It has nothing to do with you personally. It's what are they looking for today? Who's reading your file? And that could change tomorrow. It's sometimes just a matter of you being in the right place, in the right time, on the right person's desk. And that's the truth. Here's another one that I think is worth your time. This one came out in 2020. Jeffrey Salingo is an excellent college writer. He's written several books. This one also gives you a lot of insight into what makes it all go. Takes the mystery out of it. Just a moment. Okay. College fairs. We hear a lot about those. We used to take busloads of kids to them. I used to find that they were good for kind of a good visual for introducing groups of kids to how big this game board really is. It's not small. It's not cookie cutter. If you can walk into a big room and see hundreds of tables with college reps from just endless numbers and amounts and types of colleges, it sort of opens one's eyes. But I find that it tends to be kind of a weird dartboard. I've concluded over time that I don't think they should be necessarily front and center. That said, if you want to go to them, they're a lot of fun. I recommend anything sponsored by NACAC, that stands for National Association of College Admissions Counseling. Anything sponsored by CTCL, that book that I showed you a few slides back, Colleges That Change Lives, it spawned this organization, and these colleges travel around the country together. They will come to LA. They usually set up at Universal City over a weekend, and you can go visit a whole bunch of liberal arts colleges. And then if you think you're going to be any sort of visual arts major, that includes even filmmaking and that sort of thing, there's an organization that should become your new best friend called National Portfolio Day Association. When you come to see us, we'll talk in depth about that if that's where you're headed. So this really applies to selective colleges, and I have to spend a lot of time on them because there's always a very passionate group of you, for good reason, at our school who wants to go after these schools, and we're pretty successful at delivering them. But if this is where you're headed, you should wrap your minds around the concept of hooked versus unhooked. So a hooked applicant, what does that mean? That means just what it says, a specific characteristic, trait, or talent, or other fact about a student that possesses them that gives them an extra edge in the process. So remember how I said there's usually an institutional need, and that's how they admit and deny? We don't know what those institutional needs are. They're pretty secret, and they change all the time. But a hooked applicant fulfills whatever that mysterious institutional need is. Maybe it's a national speech and debate champion. Maybe it's a national level athlete of some sort. It's a world of things that it could be. Most kids, by the way, are what's called unhooked. That's just the way normal people are. So there are two types of hooks. There's a self-developed one that you create for yourself, obviously. I cited some of those. And then there's an inherent one with which you are born. That could be an ethnicity, that could be a socioeconomic trait, that could be legacy. If you have a parent who graduated from that school, has an undergraduate degree from a particular school, then you have a legacy hook, okay? But going into that process of entering highly selective colleges, and what do I mean by that? I mean, a significantly selective college is going to be something that has a general selectivity rate of, say, something south of 30%. But the ones that we're really talking about here are down sometimes in the single digits, 10, 12%. Certainly the Ivy League schools, some of the Ivy League competitors like Stanford, and then another level down would be like, say, a Northwestern, WashU, NYU. Those are all highly selective schools where hooks begin to really matter. That's where that game really exists. You don't have to worry about hooks when you're talking about University of San Francisco, Loyola Marymount University. By the way, 95% of all colleges are open to you. It's always this little select group of that have the snob factor going, where all of this comes into play. So how are they evaluated? Well, like I said there, it's a complicated, nuanced answer. Here's a slide that we made a couple of years ago, and we update it every year. It's, it's not exact, but it gives you a pretty good idea of just what you're talking about when you say to me, I want to go to an Ivy League school. Well, obviously we've chosen the toughest one, but they're all pretty much in this category. None of them, they're not that too far off selectivity wise. They're all in single digits, okay? So let's just go through it so you understand. If you want to do this, we support you, but understand what you're signing up for. So Harvard's freshman class of 2025 received 61,220 applications. Now you may ask yourself, well, gee, UCLA received nearly 150,000. What gives? It's like comparing apples and oranges. That applicant pool that applies to UCLA is everything but the kitchen sink. The Harvard applicant pool tends to be the creme de la creme from any school. Okay, so that's 61,220, by and large, the most admissible kids in the world that apply. Their acceptance rate that year was 4.2%. Out of those 61,000, 1,954 were accepted. Average ACT score, 35, 36 is perfect. Average SAT, 1540, 1600 is perfect. 40% of those kids are legacies. So if you're not a legacy, what do you have left? That leaves us with 1,172 spots. Harvard, like other schools, admits by regions in the United States and internationally. So that's 5 regions. If you divide that number, that 1172 by 5, you have 234 kids. So the West Coast is one region. Out of those 234 kids in the West Coast, some of them are prized athletes. So I don't know how many that is, but let's just say once you take the athletes out, they have to people their football and basketball and every kind of lacrosse team and everything. You've got 180 spots left for the entire West Coast. So spread it out over from San Diego up to Vancouver and divide it and think about this. In LA alone, there are 1,400 high schools. All of them have top students. All of them have great candidates in some way, shape, or form. So it kind of boils down to you need to be one of 6 to 8 kids in LA to be admitted to Harvard. Okay, that's how this works. So if you want to sign up for that race, be our guest. We love you, we support you, but understand what we're talking about. It's not a fairy tale. It's exceedingly difficult, and get ready. Here are the Ivy League schools. There are 8 of them. I've listed them here, in alphabetical order, and you can see their current acceptance rates at the end. The Seven Sisters are, back in the day, the Ivy League used to only serve male students. They went co-ed back in the latter part of the 20th century. And before that happened, these were the kind of the female versions of the Ivy League schools, and they're very, very good. Barnard College is the most popular. It has an 8% acceptance rate. I think it's probably just because in most ways, it's actually a part of Columbia University. It's right across the street. Their students take classes at Columbia. It says out in front of the school on a big emblem on the sidewalk, a big stamp, it says Barnard College of Columbia University. So they sort of have that extra little bit of Ivy League panache that the others don't have. Bryn Mawr is in the Philadelphia area. Mount Holyoke is one of the most beautiful campuses I ever saw in my life. It's out in Western Massachusetts. I'd go there. Radcliffe is now gone. It was integrated into Harvard in 1999. Smith is located very near Mount Holyoke. Vassar has been co-ed for quite some time. It was co-ed when Ms. Wilbert went there. And Wellesley is outside of Boston. Very, very difficult to enter. But these are good options if you happen to be female, except for Vassar. We have males, we've had male graduates go to Vassar and be very happy. Just a few examples of other highly selective places that VIP families hotly pursue on a regular basis. This is a good sampling of them. We've had kids admitted and sometimes go to every one of these schools except for two. So far, we have not cracked Bowdoin College or Swarthmore College. I don't know what they want. I sort of give up. I don't get it, but we do business with every single one of the other ones on this list. And there are more. This is just a sampling of what I'm talking about. So who gets in to these schools? Obviously, there's the, grades, test scores, letters, all that stuff. I'm sure you already know. But like I said, the successful candidate appears to sincerely get past the prestige factor and demonstrates a good level of sophistication and or maturity. The candidate is a high impact player in and out of the classroom. We're really talking about things that are unique. Usually it's not somebody who made a difference in their high school, but someone who's playing some kind of an extracurricular game at a state or even better, a national level. It's a person who specializes, has one or two hotly pursued, intensive interests, not just scads of little things, joining of a bunch of clubs and jobs and things like that. It's a focus. It's a real obvious focus that shows up. A demonstrated proof of love of learning. I mean, that's nebulous. We'll talk about that when it's appropriate. And also demonstrates proof of a specific interest in the institution. If you're trying to go to Yale University, well, why? Because they're going to ask you that. It's a question, I guarantee you, on the application. And it's got to be more than something superficial. Out-of-state publics are a very complicated topic because they all differ in how they do business. They have different requirements. They have different applications. It's sometimes they can be easy. Sometimes they're headaches. I set up there in parentheses. These are examples of ones that usually cost a fortune to California residents. It's no secret that out-of-state public universities charge an arm and a leg. Some of them charge more than others. If you go to a University of Texas or Michigan, these are all very, very popular schools. They're going to hit you hard on out-of-state tuition. And they can, because they've got hundreds of applicants lined up right behind the slot they gave you. So again, it's a business. It's not altruistic. Okay. But if you want to go out of state, there are some deals out there. So, for example, the WUE, we call it the WUE scholarship, stands for Western Undergraduate Exchange. There's a whole group of second-tier out-of-state publics that will give you a greatly reduced tuition price to come there. Why? Because they need bodies, right? It's a business matter. So you can go to schools such as these for a much reduced fee if you have decent grades. You don't have to have perfect grades, but if you're a 3.0 or higher, you can usually get very good tuition breaks at schools such as these. So in a nutshell, each student's prospective college list, which we help you put together, and we're starting that process now. You should have certainly some reach schools, but I like to say realistic reach schools. I don't think fantasy schools really have a place here. Do them if you want, but it's just going to be a lot of time and effort and aggravation for you. There are realistic reach schools that means, if you hit somebody in the right place at the right time, you just might get in. You're not too far off the mark. It might happen. We have this happen to kids every year. We always have kids who get into their realistic reach schools. Then there's the possible list. That's roughly you have a 50-50 chance. Likely means, well, I tend to say you'd have to probably walk in and bite them on the ankle to not get in. You're going to get in. And everyone should have likely schools. Those are the hardest ones to pick because most people like to just slough off that category. But you want to pick schools that you would actually be happy to pack your bags and go to, because you know what? You're probably going to end up there. That's the truth. So you better pick those carefully, because those possibles and reaches could crash and burn. The likely schools, it's very important. It's the most important category on the whole list. And you should have, we like to see you have a selection of both private and public selections. Here's the list of all the things that college admissions people minimally want to see. And these are things that you should start working with us to start building and improving. I won't read through all of them, but we're going to talk about some of them as we go here. You'll notice there under test scores, ACT and/or SAT, not as important as in the past. The test optional movement has been very strong for a number of years, but once COVID hit, practically every school fell like a house of cards. Most schools nowadays are test optional. So a key thing, I think the thing that most kids have a lot of trouble with is this extracurricular part of things, activities. And it's time to start really analyzing what it is you do or don't do. I think the problem we've had with COVID and everybody staying home is a lot of kids have just been staying home and shutting the door and playing on their phones and computers. And that isn't going to work for this game. So start to think about, what are 2 or 3 things that really matter to you? What do you like to do? And so many things count, and here's a list: creative work, artistic pursuits, academic research done on your own. One kid we had one year did in-depth reading of several authors. It doesn't have to be what you think. It's not about starting or joining a bunch of clubs. That's got its place, but people think activities means clubs, and it doesn't. It means anything where you busy yourself, something you enjoy, that's productive, that's not destructive, that's outside of the classroom. They're looking again for specialization, not spreading yourself out over a million things. You don't have to fill up all 10 places on the college application. So the question is, what makes you an interesting person outside of classroom life? This is a key question to think about here as you begin the second semester of junior year. Testing is a big bugaboo. People are still wound up about it, those who are entering this process. As I said, most schools are continuing their test optional policies. Most of you won't need to submit SATs, ACTs. my advice is for the vast majority of you, just forget about them. Every kid we had last year who went to college, which was most of them, not a single one submitted test scores last year. And some of them went to highly selective school. True of the class before them as well. So yes, you can go to college without nowadays, to 98% of them without test scores. But the problem is, if you're, let's just say, if you're white and upper class income, if you really want to do highly selective admissions, you probably ought to submit test scores. And you shouldn't submit them unless they're very high. So take an SAT, 1600. You should be hitting somewhere above a 1500 for those test scores to be significant. Okay. And that's going to be very few of you. There'll be 1 or 2 or 3 of you at the most in the class, I'm going to predict, that ought to be playing around with this idea. But most of you, forget it. The game board has changed. It's not worth your time unless you just really want to do it and you're curious. Which one should you take? It's a matter of personal preference. We can talk about it when we meet. That last point is important. There is no magic bullet regarding test prep because every kid learns differently. And every kid has preferences and who teaches them. So there is no special testing agency that does the best job. It's sort of, who are you and who do you like? Personally, I wouldn't spend time on it. I wouldn't do it unless you are hell bent to go to Harvard and its ilk. Then it's important. So application types that we're going to be interacting with come fall. 3 general groups. There are others out there in the world, but these are the basics. This is where 95% of all applications fall into one of these 3 groups. Common App, whether or not you end up applying to private colleges, everyone needs a Common App account. We will help you sign up for it because we end up down the road matching your Naviance account with your Common App account. And that matching allows me to send your docs electronically to all colleges. It's an approved electronic. You can't email docs to colleges. It has to go through one of a few specific approved systems. And so that matching with Common App even allows me to service, say, UC, CSU, and community colleges. The deadlines will vary by schools, and those applications, generally they all open on July 1st, but I strongly advise you to not start pushing submit until you come back to school and we can sit together and look at essays and your whole application. You'll be surprised at how much you grow up between July before senior year and say October, November. A lot of changes happen. So don't be in a big rush to get it all done. I know well-meaning parents like to tell their kids, get all your applications done in the summer. Personally, I think that's bad advice. I think it's best for everyone to sort of work together and move at a similar pace with help in place from school staff. For any Common App schools, various rec letters are needed. We'll talk about that in a minute. The UC application opens on August 1st for you to start working on. You're welcome to do that. It doesn't allow you to submit until November 1st. It closes 30 days. Well, wait a minute. That changed this year. I should have changed that. It now, for the first time this year, it opens on October 1st and it closes on November 30th. There are essays on the application, but they do not take letters of rec at UCs. But they're looking at your activities, how you write, what your self-reported grades. No transcripts go to UC. It's all self-reported. The only transcript they receive is the one at the end, should you choose to go to one of those campuses. They'll receive your final transcript. CSU application also features really nothing but self-reported grades. There are no essays, no letters, no nothing but self-reported grades. It cranks out a stat on you. The computer accepts or denies you. Don't get your feelings hurt because nobody decided whether they like you or don't like you at CSU. It's a computer doing all the work there. Those are the three systems. We hold workshops in the fall. We guide you every step of the way. If you're awake and alive through all of that, you're going to be fine. We haven't lost one through the cracks yet. I guarantee you. It's we've done it a lot now, and we're looking out for you. I promise you that. Naviance, you've all been introduced to it. We had a little problem here. We realized there was a whole bunch of kids that were newer who didn't come to us in the early days, who we had accidentally not established Naviance accounts for. So it slowed down my process of sending you the link for setting up your individual appointments that I promised. I send all of my communication to you through the Naviance system. My emails all come through it because I want them to all land in sort of this little holding tank in your individual accounts so you can refer back to them. So we discovered that a whole portion of you didn't receive an invitation to tonight from me, and we apologize for that. But we've now fixed it. Miss Wilbert worked very hard on it today to plug up the holes. So early tomorrow afternoon, you will receive, and all of you will receive, an email from me with the link to sign up for your upcoming individual appointments. Students, give your passwords to your parents. Your parents, it helps if they're as familiar with Naviance as you are. We always say, if it's not on Naviance, then it's not real. Everything that's going to happen to you goes through Naviance. It's, yeah, you can, like we say down below there, you can research colleges on it. You'll, this semester, craft your first preliminary list of colleges. It's called Colleges I'm Thinking About. But the party will eventually exist in the list called Colleges I'm Applying to. That's the list that must be seriously kept up to date. And that's what I use for servicing all of your docs. I'm the only one who does that. So it helps me keep track of you. It's not Big Brother. I can't look at your applications through Naviance, even though the two accounts are married. It only allows me to send all of your supporting docs. So what do I mean? Your teacher recommendation letter, your recommendation letter from me, your various versions of your transcripts. There are various forms, additional forms we have to fill out as a school and provide. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes to every college you choose to apply to. And it all happens, it's all managed through Naviance. So I can't stress enough how you need to work with us here and practice using it, and don't treat it lightly, because the less you use it, the worse our help is. We need it in order. This is the only way we can manage 79 different kids who are on individual journeys. This is the only way it works. So let's be partners and make that go. Recommendation letters. I write all of the counselor letters for each student. It's required at most Common App schools. Most students will only need one teacher written letter, the teacher letter. Highest end schools usually require 2 letters, but most of you are only going to need 1. So come to your junior meeting with me with an idea of which teacher you will ask. Don't go ask him yet, because who knows who's going to be here in the fall. We've had years where we've had a lot of turnover. Your favorite teacher, for all we know, may decide not to be here next fall. It happens. So don't jump the gun on that. Let's wait until the fall. Also, I ask you, those of you who've transferred in to join us this year, I advise you to please not ask former teachers from outside the school for 2 good reasons. Number one, I can't manage them. If they're inside the school, I can manage them. I can go after them when the letter's needed. I can ask favors of those teachers. Frankly, they report to me. So we can get things from them. We can get things done if they're inside the school. If you go to someone outside the school, I have no power or sway over those people, and you're kind of on your own. And also, I won't have the privilege of reading what they said about you. I read what every single teacher writes about kids in this school. And I know which letters to send. And I can't control the content of an outside writer. Also, I know this is hard to hear, but as much as you may value that relationship with that former teacher, they're human beings, and you know what? They're serving their present kids. You who's left, it's kind of over, you know? So anyway, enough said. You'll ask at least one teacher to write for you in the early fall, most of you. Once they agree, we'll have you place that teacher in Naviance. Don't worry about that now. This is an important thing here, folks. Please do not ask to read your letters or for copies of them. They're confidential. You will never see them. It has to do with FERPA agreements between the high school and the colleges. If you want colleges to take your letters seriously, you'll be asked in the fall. There's a box you check on the forms where you waive your right to reading those letters. If you don't waive your right, they're worthless, and we're not going to provide them. It's necessary. They're confidential. No, if you have a scholarship that says upload your letter of recommendation, you'll come to me and I will upload a note that says it's against policy. Most schools, by the way, do have this policy in place, and we'll send the letter through a different means. There are no circumstances where you'll be provided your letters. But you should know this: we write great letters, thoughtful letters. We do not write mediocre letters, lukewarm letters, negative letters. We're in the business of marketing you to college. We make each of you sound like the second coming, so to speak. There's nothing to fear. You don't have to fear any of it. I don't send any negative letters. If a teacher, in the odd occasion, maybe a new teacher, doesn't get the message and they travel into that arena, I land on it with both feet. It's not a deposition, these letters. It's a marketing tool. Remember, it's a game. It's a business. We're there to market you. We don't write cookie cutter letters. We pride ourselves on painting each one of our students in the most positive light. So relax about all of that business. Nobody's going to say anything nasty about you or even kind of lukewarm. Okay, it's a happy thing. It's not a scary thing. But don't ask to read them. Okay, one other thing about that. There's another good reason. It's kind of like letting the fox into the hen house. Once you start letting everybody read their letters, then everyone starts dictating what you write. So no. Okay. Okay, we're getting towards the end here. Here are some frequently asked questions. Can I take a gap year? Well, sure. But let's talk about what gap years are. They kind of fell into popularity about 15, 20 years ago. And what they were originally supposed to be was kid gets admitted to a college and then wants to go do something productive, like go on a study tour or some specific piece of research or some deep level of community service, something very project-based before going to college. Since then, it has gotten watered down and kind of abused. And now everybody calls not going to college after high school a gap year. That's not a gap year. Okay. That's just hanging out of school. That's so what you should know is the appropriate way to do it is to go ahead and apply to colleges if you want to do it, apply to colleges during your senior year, pick the school you're going to attend, pay your deposits, and then you approach that school and ask permission and give them the plan that you have in mind. Most schools do require a compelling reason to take a gap year. Here's the thing. Our services, we do pretty intensive services especially for a public school here. These services aren't yours in perpetuity, meaning forever. They're good while you're enrolled at VIP. You can't come back to us. We don't have the time. We can't just take care of you once you're out of there. So we highly recommend you take advantage of it while you're there. Go ahead and apply and then make your decision in spring of senior year as to what you're really going to do. You should take into consideration the fact that most of the current research shows that gap years after high school don't deliver much, but debauchery. The best time to take a gap year appears to be a year at the end of earning one's first degree in college. That's the ideal year to go take that vacation trip around Europe. The time after high school is sort of like throwing time away, really. There's not that much growth that happens between age 18 and 19. So, but that's a decision you and your family, juniors, are going to make on your own. But that's my 2 cents on it. I'm hearing more and more about going to college internationally. You are certainly welcome to apply to those schools out of the USA, but it will mean a lot of extra research for you. International schools are not our specialty, and so many of the rules and requirements there are very different. So know that if you're going to go down that road, you're by and large kind of on your own. You're going to have to tell me where and when and how to send your docs. It's just, we do well to keep track of the 50 states. We don't have the resources to start delving into obscure schools in countries outside of the US and Canada. We can pretty handily do anything in North America. Beyond that, we're not such great shakes. International colleges are a specific specialty, and most high schools just really don't have that. Also, you should know that many American colleges have campuses abroad. There are some colleges that are totally located abroad, but are based, their foundations are in the US. They have US financial aid, they're US schools, but they happen to have campuses somewhere else. American University of Paris is one of those, a great American school that's in Paris. John Cabot University is in Italy. St. Louis University, Madrid, obviously Madrid. Bard College, Berlin. These are all schools that you can handily apply to and be accepted to and go. And there are financial aid, your financial aid travels with you. Also remember, every single college nowadays has study abroad. Probably the worst question you could ever ask a college rep is, do you have study abroad? Because the answer nowadays is yes. Every college has study abroad opportunities, ample study abroad opportunities while you're there. Every college has internships. If you want to see my face fall, ask a college rep, do you have internships and study abroad? Because you already know the answer is yes. Every school will talk ad nauseum about what those opportunities are. Financial aid. I recommend you not worry about it just yet. We may have webinars that come up that I highly recommend you go to, but it's such a personal, it's an individual process that we'll start talking about when you come to meet with me individually. Right now, just stick with exploring your college options. Financial aid is a big topic that's coming down the pike. So what should you be doing right now? This is your most important semester of high school. This is pivotal, spring semester, junior year. This is what determines what's going to happen to you next year and how your decisions are going to go. This, if there ever was a time to focus on school, to focus on your grades, this is it. Don't go lazy. This is the time. If you don't do a good job here, it's going to make things tougher for you when application season comes. Also, remember to make up any current D's or F's you have, especially during the sophomore or junior years. If you're going to be needing significant financial aid and you go to school in California, the Cal Grant distribution depends on 4 semesters, 2 semesters of sophomore year, 2 semesters of junior year, specific courses. So if you start making up classes after this semester, they won't count for Cal Grant consideration. This is the time right now to clean things up, anything that went wrong in the past. Fully engage with what's about to start happening in advisory. Start thinking about that activities resume, start writing it, building it, just so we can understand the direction you're going in. And just start researching colleges online and getting on mailing lists. That's very important. Be on the mailing list. Let them send you their pretty brochures. All private colleges track this information, whether or not you're on the mailing list. Do you open emails they send you? They track this for gauging demonstrated interest. The public universities do not. They don't do it. They don't care. But any private college or university has sophisticated ways of tracking who you are and what you do. So know that. Go ahead and get on the mailing list. That gives you points right off the bat. Okay, what about private/independent college counselors? Should you hire one? In our opinion, no. But as I said, you do you. We can't and won't dictate that. Full disclosure, I've been doing for many years small amount of private counseling as a side hustle. So I'm one of these folks. Understand, I'm not, I'm speaking to you as someone who knows what they do, and I do it myself. I know what the job is all about. And I'm telling you a lot of truths here. First of all, the admissions process only includes people in those admissions offices on the college side and us, your in-school personnel. It doesn't include outside consultants. So what that means is all they are expensive tutors. Hey, when I take one of those jobs on the outside, I'm happy to take the money for doing what I do for you. I do more for you for free than I do for those people for money. I will tell you that many of them are fly by night. They fell into these careers as empty nesters. They aren't particularly talented, skillful, or experienced. Of course, there are exceptions to that. I don't mean to besmirch the whole field, but it has a lot of dilettantes running around in it. It's not licensed, so anybody under the sun can hang out a shingle and call themselves a private college consultant. We don't confer with your private college counselors. We don't care what they think. They're for you and you alone. They're not part of our process. If you end up kind of informally replacing us, the free school team, with your hired gun, what usually ends up happening is the student most likely will not spend a lot of quality time with us. Thereby, we don't get to know them as well. They receive less passionate guidance. The recommendations letters aren't as maybe fully formed because there's been no close bond formed. That hired gun tends to get in the way of the process. Enough said. That's just, you can take it or leave it. That's just kind of what I've put together over time. I'm glad to take the money from the people that give me the money. And these, by the way, are not people in the Valley. I work for people once in a while down in Santa Monica. No one who competes who could potentially go to our school. But I have no power with those kids in their process. I'm just a tutor. I have plenty I can do for you as the chief person inside the school. It's just a different relationship. Parents, should I freak out if my kid doesn't have straight A's? And a single harsh word, no, calm down. Don't yell at the teachers and administrators. This endeavor isn't about perfection. They know kids aren't perfect. Kids aren't robots. Depending on what kinds of schools you're choosing, occasional B's are fine. There are schools that accept kids with C's, even D's. I've seen a few F's, so know that straight A's are not the goal. Good if you have them, but don't flip. I can't tell you how many calls I get where a parent says, Junior is going to get a B in AP statistics. What are we going to do? Forget it. It's not a concern. You're focusing on the wrong thing there. Just do your best. That's all anyone needs. What about visiting colleges in person? Do it if you want. It's a lot of fun, but it is totally unnecessary until the spring break of senior year, because by then you'll have a pretty good idea of what your true options are. Colleges don't expect you to do it. They know it's expensive. Most people don't do it. Also, there are a finite number of days under specific circumstances. You're excused from school to do it in the senior year, certainly not junior year. Understand that colleges right now, like if you were to go spring break, that's fine. But you are not the target customer yet. They're still trying to woo people into next fall's freshman class. They're not too worried about you yet. They're not, you're a tertiary consideration at this point. So relax unless it sounds like a lot of fun, then by all means go, but it's not, it's certainly not important at this point. What can I do as a parent to make sure Anne fully understands my child before writing this all important recommendation letter? Parents, you're not required, but you're invited to write me a detailed letter. I'm a parent. I loved my kids to death. I thought they hung the moon. I know you do too. I know your kids, I know you know your kids better than anyone. If you want to write me that letter, I invite you. It's welcome. If you don't, that's fine too. I do just fine without it. But I love to read them. If it helps you sleep at night, please feel free. You're invited. I get lovely letters from parents. Other parents decide to be quiet, and that's good too. It's entirely up to you. So, wrapping up, next steps. Confirm students' completion and submission of the pre-college form. Kids, remember that form they had you fill out an advisory last semester? Probably next week, I'm going to be going through and seeing which ones are missing. I think I'm missing about 21 of them. I can't meet with you until I have that form completed. That's what allows me to prep for the meeting. If you walk into a meeting without that form, I'm sort of flying blind. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's sort of an unproductive meeting. So please, if you haven't filled it out, do it. Don't worry if you hadn't. I'll be coming after you. We'll get it done. But know that if you make an appointment and you still don't submit that form beforehand, I'll have to ask that we move your meeting because I just can't prep for it if I don't have it. You'll be receiving early tomorrow afternoon, finally, the appointment link that'll be emailed to you that I promised a little while back. And there are going to be open meeting slots in late January, some of February, but most of them will be available in March. That's not too late, folks. I always have people that clamor for those first spots, but there's really no reason. You're certainly not too late to the party if you're coming to a meeting in March. In fact, sometimes you know yourself a little bit better and you're a little more at ease. So know that any time in this January, February, March space, you're fine. There will be a time about a week in February where I disappear because I'm going to have the first of 2 knees replaced in St. Louis. So I'll kind of have a little bit of downtime then on Zoom, but a few of you will probably be talking to me propped up in my bed right after that surgery. I hope you don't mind, but we'll make the best of it. Let's see, attend scheduled in-person meeting. That's what we're going to do on Zoom. Parents, you are encouraged and invited to attend, but it is optional. The student is the only one that's required to attend. Please turn on your cameras, no dark screens. I don't talk to black screens. Only one spring meeting per family, please. It's hard to get everybody in. Miss Wilbert will always join us whenever she can. She has many duties, but she plans to be there. This is a big bugaboo of mine. I write you a lot of emails. They're going to start coming more and more, especially when we get closer to senior year. Would you please read them? I write them for a reason. They always contain information you'll be glad you know. I don't write them for my mental health. They really are for you. And I really do ask that you read them. I find that I'll send out a very detailed, clear explanation of some aspect of things, and then I'll get that question over and over again that was covered in those emails. So they're always stored in your Naviance account in the upper right corner of your homepage. So if you ever want to refer back to them, they're always there. Parents, start helping your students schedule and attend online info sessions for any colleges that they think they might be interested in. Since COVID, it used to be you had to go out in person to these things, and it was a real pain, it was sort of a pill. Now you can sit in the comfort of your home and watch sales presentations, so to speak, from colleges, and they know when you're there, and it's good to show up, be on screen, be counted, ask an intelligent question, participate. This is all part of the game. And then, of course, we'll have other events to serve you as we go along, so watch for those announcements. This semester's advisory. This is what's going to happen. We're going to obtain Common App and Naviance accounts. We'll start in the colleges I'm thinking about, as I said, and then we'll move eventually by fall. Once you get to senior year, certain schools that you choose will be moved over to colleges I'm applying to. Start thinking about your activities resume, start writing it. There's a place in Naviance that you can do that. You'll be guided in advisory. Let's see, mailing lists, we talked about that. Hey, this coming summer is the most important summer of your life. Do something. Colleges are looking for how did you spend time, particularly between your junior and senior years. That can be something, that can be a job, that can be a research endeavor, something you wish, something you're curious about. It's not just, I'm sorry to say, it's not a time for just hanging out. This is a summer that you need to make count. Like I said, get rid of those D's and F's as best you can. You can Google winning college essays. You can read them. This shouldn't be a mystery. They're easy to acquire. We'll do some writing workshops in the fall, maybe even in the spring in English class, but you can find them everywhere. And parents, just know that if you did indeed go to college, everything's changed since you went. It's a whole different world of activity. And if you didn't go to college, that's okay too. I can't tell you how many parents come into my office and sort of hang their heads and say, and sort of whisper, I didn't go to college and this all scares me. You know what? You're not alone. I'd say I'm going to guess that's half of you in this room. So don't worry. We're there to help and guide, and it's a-okay. In fact, sometimes it's beneficial for you to not have gone that route. We'll talk more about that when we see you. Going to leave you with this. This is also, this quote I like a lot. I think it applies to this process. It's been attributed to Helen Keller, but I don't know if I believe it. I question that, but I like it just the same. And this is all about designing your own journey once you've left the comfort of home. It's as simple as that. So, if you have any questions, I know this has been long, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, email me. I can, if it's anything that is personal, that's fine. If it's something that applies to everyone, I can create a doc that I send out to you. I look forward to hearing from you. I don't mind if I give out my cell phone number. I'll give it to you here if you want it, but I'll do it in writing too. My phone number is 818-438-0897. Let's be informal. Let's all try to be friends, all of us, kids, parents. I answer text messages. I really love emails. I don't mind a phone call. If I'm busy, I won't answer. Don't worry. Let's not be formal. I'd appreciate it if you probably not bug me on a weekend or especially Sunday morning, but if it's an emergency, please do it. Otherwise, I'm kind of all yours on the school days. And let's try to all work together, you, me, Ms. Wilbert, advisory teachers. Let's create a kind of a family / team atmosphere, and be casual and be real. How about that? Let's not stand on ceremony. No question is a stupid question. Yeah, that's it. I hope you learned a lot here. I hope this makes you feel excited about what's to come. And thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. And I'll be talking with you soon, and over and out. Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye. I don't know how to go away, Catherine. It won't let me go. There it goes. How goofy. I think I'll just close the screen. Bye.